21 days of prayer have led up to this moment. We're joining together, but this moment is only the culmination of what happened when you got into your car and began the process of answered prayer. By making a decision and setting an intention of moving into this prayer space, you began the wheel moving towards the completion of this wonderful prayer. The outcome is assured. We're grateful that you all came out. I'm Greg Barrett from Renaissance Unity, but this is a multi-faith, interfaith event. We want to acknowledge, and you can wave at everyone if you're here from, I see Victor Begg from the Muslim community, and the imams are here. There are representatives from synagogues and Jewish temples who are here. There are members of this Brodian Buddhist community and Dr. Arulani. Including Pastor Hill from the Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church and many others, and we'll wave at members. And all the faith traditions, even the ones we have not mentioned. We also understand that Stephanie Milich from Mayor-to-be Ken Cockrell's office is here. If you'll wave at everybody, that would be wonderful. Purposely did not make this about a lot of speeches, a lot of rhetoric, certainly no politics whatsoever, not even religious politics. We are simply here to pray. And when I called my good friend David Crum from the Detroit Free Press, he was the editor of the religion page there for many, many years. He suggested that we shorten our affirmation to I lift Detroit in prayer. He suggested, and so did my wife, independently of each other, that we meet at Hart Plaza, the epicenter of the Detroit experience. And he also suggested that we join together in a consciousness that was centered only in prayer, not in a lot of speeches. And so I'm going to say a few words when we're all done so that we can get lined up and all. But I want us to give a warm welcome to the man who largely visioned this, who moved this forward and was the spark plug that opened so many doors to make this a wonderful prayer event. Many of you have read his columns all of these years in the Free Press and at his website, readthespirit.com. So I'd like to introduce to you David Crum. David?
Thank you for coming, each and every one of you, because fundamentally what's happening here isn't happening here. It's happening right there. It's happening where each and every one of you is sitting. I saw a gentleman up here cradling a young child. It's happening in that life there. It's happening in the life of that last person in the last row back there. That's the purpose of an event like this. It's what's going on inside your life. And the fact that on a busy Sunday afternoon, you were not put off by the threat of rain. You made the effort to drive down here to find a parking place and to be with us in this circle. And for that, I thank each of you for coming. I am the editor of the Read the Spirit website. Friends of ours from both the News and Detroit Free Press are here today, and we thank those friends who are here. We thank Channel 2 for coming. because the inspiration that comes from your heart and mind to come to this event, the inspiration that you've been praying about, that you're going to write down as an affirmation in those books in a few minutes, is the real power of this idea. We've simply been telling people about it. Tomorrow morning, if you come to our website, you'll find a story about this event. That story already has gone out to the far corners of North America. It's even echoed in Europe. There are people praying in the Florida Keys, in Calgary, Alberta. Greg was telling me that there's a lighthouse keeper in Florida who's praying at the top of the lighthouse today. There are people who've organized events like this. There's an event in an area of Alabama called the Wiregrass that's called Lift the Wiregrass in Prayer. I didn't even know what the Wiregrass was. But there are people down there doing just what you're doing for their area because you did it first and you sent the idea out to them. That's the power of this. The only other thing I want to remind you is we're sitting here in a kind of a concrete bunker, and it may not look all that awe-inspiring to you. It certainly doesn't rival the beautiful church architecture and mosque architecture and synagogue architecture we've got across Metro Detroit. But you are sitting in one of the most sacred spots in Michigan. Envision for just a moment that for thousands of years, this was an international crossing point for native peoples who often would camp here and work here and live here, and a part of their lives was meditating on their connection with the natural world and the Creator. In 1701, not very far from where you're seated today, the European folks came who established Detroit, and the first thing they did on the first day was to host a prayer service, not very far from where you're seated. Not very far down the river from here in the early part of the 20th century is the train station, where tens of thousands of families migrated north from the south for work in auto factories, who today are the families that are the backbone of metropolitan Detroit. This truly is a sacred place because now you are here too, as the next step in that long cycle of people who have come to this place to say a prayer for this city and this region. In closing, I'm involved now with many different groups around the world who try to spread and share ideas like this, and I'm on an email list in Asia among journalists who are looking for promising ideas that can help knit together divided communities. And I sent them a note this weekend about this event happening in Detroit. And a professor from New Delhi sent me a note back, and he said, "David, is this now what we will see coming out of Detroit?" Yes. I say yes.
I'd also like to acknowledge our good friend who is the one who introduced me to David Crum and who ministers at Unity of Farmington Hills, Barbara Clevenger. Barbara?